I found a letter written in my handwriting, dated 3 weeks from now, and it told me to run. The attic was silent, but I felt like I was being watched. Dust floated through the air like ash. I hadn't planned on going through Grandpa's boxes. I was just looking for the photo albums. Instead, I found a shoe box with my name scrawled across the lid in ink that looked too fresh. Inside, no photos. Just a folded sheet of paper. No creases. No yellowing. As if someone had placed it there last night. The moment I saw the handwriting, something inside me broke open. It was mine. Down to the uneven spacing, the slightly aggressive T's, the lowercase e's that curled into tiny hooks. It wasn't similar. It was mine. I unfolded the paper. And read the first line. Don't marry her. I read it twice before I realized the date at the top didn't make sense. July 11th, 2025. 3 weeks from now. My hands went cold. I sat on the attic floor. The air felt thinner. The letter continued. She isn't who she says she is. And on the day of your wedding, everything will come apart. You'll lose your job, your name, your freedom. If you're reading this in time, you have a chance to stop it. You won't believe me now, but you will. Sooner than you think. There was no signature, but I knew it was from me. I don't mean that metaphorically. I don't mean that I wrote it and forgot. I mean that somehow, some version of me had written this, knowing I'd find it, begging me to believe it before it was too late. I reread it 3 more times. Checked the box again. No other pages. No envelope. Just that note. And one more thing, scribbled in tiny letters on the back. Behind the drywall. Bedroom closet. The key is inside the watch. I stumbled downstairs like a sleepwalker. Rachel's car wasn't in the driveway. She was still at work. She wouldn't be home for another hour. The hallway light buzzed above me as I opened the closet and pressed my ear to the wall. Nothing. I knocked 3 times. Hollow. There was something behind it. I ran to the garage, grabbed a crowbar, and peeled back the panel in slow, cautious jerks. There, tucked between insulation and wood framing, was a tin box. Locked. My grandfather's old pocket watch lay on my nightstand. It hadn't worked in years. I popped open the back, and inside the casing, taped to the underside of the ticking mechanism, was a tiny brass key. My pulse roared in my ears as I unlocked the tin. Inside were photographs, documents, a USB drive, and on top, a copy of the same letter I'd found upstairs. Except this one had a different message scribbled across the top in red ink. If you're still reading, it's already started. I didn't hear the car pull in. I didn't hear the door open. But I heard her voice behind me, soft and careful. Hey, babe, what are you doing in the closet? 2. She smiled like nothing was wrong, like I wasn't holding a box full of secrets that could bury us both. I shoved everything back inside, slammed the tin shut with my foot, and spun toward her. Just looking for winter coats, I lied. She tilted her head, curls falling over her shoulder like they always did when she was trying to read me. In July, I forced a laugh. My heart was sprinting, lungs straining to keep up, trying to declutter. Figured I'd start early this year. She nodded slowly, eyes scanning the closet. Not the box. Not yet. I thought you were working late. Got out early. Wanted to surprise you. She leaned in for a kiss. I gave her my cheek. Something in her smile dimmed. I stepped away, muttered something about dinner, and escaped into the kitchen. I needed space. Air. A second to think. I had a box full of warnings. A letter from my own hand predicting a future I couldn't comprehend. And standing in the hallway, laughing, stretching, humming to herself, was the woman I was supposed to marry in 10 days. Rachel. Kind. Generous. Beautiful. My center of gravity for the past 4 years. But now, a question mark. I waited until she was in the shower before pulling out the USB. It was encrypted. Of course it was. The file directory was blank except for one folder, 07. 11/25. Wedding day. Inside, PDFs, voice memos, surveillance photos. Some of me. Some of her. Some of people I didn't recognize. Meetings in parking lots. Transfers. Offshore accounts. Names linked to shell corporations. At the bottom, a video file named simply, Watch This. I clicked it. A man appeared on screen. Mid-30s. Hollow eyes. Scar along his jaw. Beard thicker than mine. He stared straight ahead like he was watching something burn behind the camera. It was me. Older. Wrecked. If you're watching this, he said, you haven't lost everything yet. I leaned in. My pulse skipped. I'm not going to explain how this got to you. Just trust that I've made it happen before, and this is my last shot. You need to end it now. Don't go through with the wedding. Don't wait until the rehearsal dinner. That's when the handoff starts. That's when they lock in your assets, flip the accounts, erase the trail. And if you say anything, if you try to stop it without proof, they will bury you. My mouth went dry. This isn't just about Rachel, he continued. She's the face, the lever, but the one pulling strings? That's Anton. You've never met him, but he's already in your life. You'll know him when he shows up. And when he does, you'll have 30 minutes to choose your future. Or your freedom. The screen flickered. Then one last line. Burn this drive. And run. I shut the laptop. The shower was still on. Steam curled under the bathroom door like a warning. I picked up the journal again, flipped to the last page. A list. Names. Dates. Crossed out targets. The last entry? My name. My photo. A note beneath it. Final play. Transfer to Anton. Ensure no trail. Client watching. The sound of water stopped. Her voice floated out. Babe, can you grab me a towel? I stared at the journal, then at the bathroom door, and I realized I didn't know who was on the other side anymore. 3. The woman I loved asked for a towel while planning to erase me from my own life. I walked to the linen cabinet, pulled one from the middle of the stack. Same routine I'd done 100 times before, but this time, every movement felt mechanical. Like I was playing a role I'd suddenly forgotten how to inhabit. She opened the door before I could knock. Steam poured out around her. Her hair was damp, cheeks flushed. She smiled like she always did, comfortable, trusting, so familiar it made my stomach twist. Thanks, she said, brushing my hand with hers. I nodded, mumbled something, turned before I could look too long. Every part of me was screaming. Back in the kitchen, I stared at the tin box like it might start hissing. The weight of what I knew, or thought I knew, was suffocating. What if I was wrong? What if the journal was a lie? A setup? Some kind of test? But then I remembered the name. Anton. The way the video said it. The way the note under my photo called it a transfer. Like I wasn't a person, just an asset. I pulled out my phone and called the only person I could trust. Caleb. My brother. We hadn't spoken in over a year. Not since the fallout over Mom's will. But blood cuts through silence. He answered on the second ring. Parker. I didn't waste time. I need you to come up here. Tonight. No questions. Just come. And don't tell anyone. Silence. Then. You okay? No, I said. And if I'm right, I won't be for long. He promised to get on the road within the hour. I hung up, erased the call log, and flushed the backup copy of the journal pages down the toilet. One mistake, one missed detail, and everything would unravel. Rachel came out of the bedroom dressed in one of my sweatshirts, sipping tea like we weren't standing on the edge of something catastrophic. I was thinking, she said. What if we canceled the rehearsal dinner? I turned. What? She shrugged. Something's been feeling off lately. You've seemed distant. I froze. Was it intuition? Or was she testing me? You're not having second thoughts, are you? She asked, smiling like the answer couldn't possibly be yes. I smiled back, but it didn't reach my eyes. That night, I barely slept. Every creak in the floorboards made me jolt. Every time she shifted beside me, I imagined a needle. A pill. A whisper into her phone. At 3:04 a.m., I heard the door close softly. By the time I got to the window, she was already in the car. She wasn't wearing shoes. No purse. No phone in her hand. Just keys. And she wasn't alone. In the passenger seat sat a man in a charcoal suit. Even through the glass, I felt it. Anton. 4. The man beside her didn't speak, didn't gesture, didn't look at her. He just stared forward like a passenger who'd done this before. Like the whole world was a route he'd already mapped. I stood behind the curtain, heart hammering. She didn't even check if I was awake. Didn't look back at the house. The engine purred. The car reversed slowly, headlights off, slipping into the fog like a knife into cloth. I didn't move until the sound faded completely. Back in the living room, I opened the tin again. Scanned every name in the journal, every marked photo, every notation. There were symbols in the margins, triangles, slashes, timestamps. I hadn't noticed them before, but one of them was next to my name, a black circle and a set of coordinates. I typed them into my phone. It pointed to an address 3 towns over. A storage facility. Unit 112. The note next to it said, Red key. Deposit footage. Don't trust digital. I packed the journal, grabbed the flash drive, and left the house quietly. The night swallowed the tires as I drove through empty streets, every streetlight flickering like it knew. When I reached the facility, the place was locked, gated, but the keypad was wired to an old mechanical panel. The red key. It was still inside the pocket watch. I popped it open, slid the small plastic chip into the reader. The gate buzzed. Unit 112 was in the far corner. Inside, I found a folding table, a box of VHS tapes, and an old camcorder, and a stack of printed screenshots, surveillance photos, timestamps, financial transactions, my accounts, my name on documents I'd never signed. There were faces I didn't recognize, and one I did. Rachel, at a bank counter, forging my signature. At a restaurant, handing off a briefcase. In an alleyway, pressed against the man from the car, Anton. Her face was different in every photo. Not soft, not warm, professional, like a cleaner prepping a scene. I backed away. She wasn't a con artist. She was something else entirely. There was one VHS tape marked in thick marker. Last message. For me. Only me. I found a player in the unit's cabinet, plugged it into a crusty old TV mounted to the wall. The tape buzzed, and then I saw myself again. Older. Depleted. He looked into the lens, eyes rimmed with red. If you're still watching, it means you haven't stopped her. He inhaled sharply. I didn't either. He held up a document. A death certificate. My name was on it. Cause of death, suicide. My stomach twisted. They made it look clean. Neat. No questions. No investigation. You don't fake your own death until you know you're already dead. But you still have a chance. If you're not wearing the watch, put it on. Now. And check the time. I glanced down. The second hand had stopped. Frozen at 3:17. He smiled, tired, almost fond. You're exactly where I was when it happened. Behind me, the unit door rattled. Once. Then again. And then it began to slide open. 5. I didn't breathe. I backed into the corner, clutching the watch in one hand, the flash drive in the other. My eyes scanned the unit for anything I could use, a weapon, a second exit, a place to hide. But the walls were bare metal, unforgiving. The only light came from the flickering TV. The door screeched halfway open, then stopped. Silence. A long, crawling silence. I stepped forward, slowly, knees barely holding. There was no one there. Just a piece of paper, slipped under the door like a note passed in a prison. I picked it up with shaking fingers. One sentence. You're not the first version of you who tried this. My skin turned to ice. I staggered back, slammed the door shut, and jammed a metal rod through the handle. It wouldn't hold them off forever, but I needed time. Seconds. Minutes. Anything. The camcorder on the table was still on. Still recording. I reached for it. And then it spoke. Not the camcorder. The TV. My voice. From the tape. I know what just happened. I left that note too. You're looping, Parker. This whole thing, it's a closed system. Every time you get this far, they find you. You die. She vanishes. Everything resets. That's why I sent the letter earlier this time. It's the only variable left. My throat closed up. There's a code in the watch, the older me continued. Engraved beneath the spring. You need to find it. Memorize it. Then burn the watch. Destroy the letter. Leave her before the dinner. If you don't, you'll wake up here again. With less time. And eventually, no version of you will be left. I pried the back off the watch. There it was. Etched beneath the metal coil. 14X, blue. 37, silence. I didn't know what it meant, but I knew it was all I had. The TV went black. The VHS hissed, then whirred, and then something clinked inside it, like a gear snapping out of place. The lights in the storage unit flickered, then went out. Total darkness. And in the silence that followed, I heard footsteps just outside the door. Slow. Precise. 2 sets. 1 pair of heels. 1 heavy tread. I reached into my bag and pulled out the only sharp thing I had left. My grandfather's hunting knife. It wasn't much, but it was honest. They didn't knock. They just waited. And then the voice I hadn't heard since this all began whispered through the crack in the metal. Open the door, Parker. Let's talk. It was Rachel. 6. I pressed my back against the wall, blade clenched in my hand, heart hammering in my throat like it wanted out. Rachel's voice didn't sound urgent or afraid. It was calm, deliberate, like someone ordering wine, not cornering the man she was planning to erase. We don't have to do this, she said. You don't have to be afraid. I didn't answer. Because I knew now, everything she said was theater. Precision engineered to soften, to disarm, to lead. You're probably holding the knife, she continued. The one from the closet. The one your grandfather left you. The one I told you to keep when you almost threw it out. My grip tightened. She knew everything. Not just about me. She knew how I'd react. The sound of shifting feet outside the door. A soft metallic click. Then the lock began to rotate from the outside. They had a second key. Of course they did. You can fight us, Rachel said. But it ends the same way. I looked at the camcorder. Still recording. I shoved the flash drive into my pocket, then reached for the journal, tore out every page with my name on it, and shoved them down the front of my shirt. The rest, I doused in lighter fluid from the emergency kit and lit a match. The flame caught fast. Orange spread through the paper like infection. Smoke filled the air. I coughed, eyes watering. The door creaked open. Rachel stepped in first. She wore black. No makeup. No earrings. No wedding ring. Anton followed. His suit was the same one from the surveillance photo. His eyes were worse in person, flat, depthless, like glass melted over coal. You've made this difficult, Rachel said softly. I didn't speak. Anton stepped forward. I raised the knife. He didn't flinch. I'm not here to kill you, he said. I'm here to finish a contract. Which is what? I asked. To disappear you. I moved fast. Not toward them, around. I kicked the camcorder at Anton's legs, ducked left, and sprinted through the smoke. My lungs burned, but I kept going. Out the door. Into the night. Across gravel and concrete. A shot rang out behind me. The wall beside me exploded in dust. I didn't turn. I made it to the fence, scaled it with adrenaline as fuel. My palms sliced open on the metal spikes. I dropped to the other side and ran. Ran like this was my last chance. Because it was. And as I turned onto the empty road, Rachel's voice echoed behind me one last time. You're running from the wrong people, Parker. 7. The road stretched ahead like a dying heartbeat. Long, quiet, broken only by the distant hum of a world that didn't know I was disappearing inside it. I ran until the pain in my side became something separate from me, until my thoughts bled into instinct, and the only word left in my head was survive. Somewhere beyond the trees, a train horn cut through the night. A town. Civilization. I didn't have a plan, just a code, a knife, and a name etched in my chest like a countdown. I ducked into a motel by the highway. Paid cash. Room 208. No ID. No questions. The clerk didn't even look at me. Inside, I locked the door, bolted the chain, pulled the curtains tight. My hands were still trembling. I spread out the pieces I'd salvaged, the flash drive, the pages, the code. 14X, blue. 37. Silence. I stared at it until my eyes blurred. Then I called the only person left in the world who might believe me. Caleb. He answered on the first ring. Where the hell are you? He asked. I've been calling all night. I found it, I whispered. Everything. She's not who she says she is. There's a man. Anton. He tried. He almost. I broke off. I couldn't find words for the rest. Send me your location, he said. I'm coming. We end this. Together. I hesitated. Then sent it. 15 minutes later, his car pulled into the lot. He looked worse than I remembered. Unshaven. Pale. Thinner. But his eyes were sharp. Alert. I threw myself into the seat. As he pulled away, I told him everything. From the letter to the video, the watch, the code. When I finished, he was quiet. Too quiet. Then he said, Did you memorize it? What? The code. The one from the watch. I nodded. Why? He pulled over. Killed the engine. Turned to me, slow. My breath caught. What? I need the code, Parker. I stared at him. And in that moment, everything stopped. His tone. His calm. His hands, motionless on the wheel. His voice didn't sound like my brother anymore. You never figured it out, he said softly. We're all part of the same script. You, me, Rachel, even Anton. You think you're the first to try and escape? My mouth went dry. You're not. The locks clicked shut. The doors sealed. And Caleb, my brother, turned to face me fully. There's no outside, Parker, he said. There's only the game. And this time, you made it interesting. 8. The car felt smaller now. I couldn't breathe. I watched his face, searching for any trace of the brother I grew up with. The boy who snuck candy under the covers, who punched a kid in the face for mocking my stutter, who held my hand at Mom's funeral when I couldn't stand. but there was nothing left of him in those eyes. What are you talking about? I asked, my voice thin. Caleb smiled. Not kindly, not cruelly, just knowingly. The loops started years ago. You've broken the script more than once. We lose track around version 11. Sometimes you run, sometimes you fight, sometimes you believe her, but you always end up back at the beginning. He reached into his jacket. I flinched, but he didn't pull a weapon. He pulled out my watch. A second one. Exactly the same. Identical. Which one do you think is real? He asked. He tossed it into my lap. I stared at it, cold metal burning into my thigh. You think this is a story about love? He continued. Or betrayal. But it's not. It's a test. A test for what? To see how far you'll go to protect something that never existed. I opened the watch. No code. No spring. Just a smooth, empty casing. Where's Rachel? I asked. He turned the key in the ignition, started driving again, slow, casual. She's still playing her part. You'll see her again. I clenched the knife inside my jacket pocket. He didn't know I still had it. Why me? I asked. Because you asked for it, he said, almost gently. You wanted to know the truth. And this is how truth feels. He turned into a narrow driveway lined with trees. At the end was a house. Old. Familiar. My grandfather's. But it couldn't be. It burned down years ago. He stopped the car. The front porch light flickered on. Inside, shadows moved. A figure stepped into view. Rachel, wearing the same dress from our first date. Waiting. Smiling. Caleb reached across me, unlocked the door. Time to wake up, Parker, he said. And then he whispered something I'll never forget. Version 14 begins now. 9. The porch creaked beneath my feet like it remembered me. The air was warm, scented with lilacs, just like it had been that night 10 years ago when I told her I loved her for the first time. Rachel stood in the doorway, barefoot, calm, eyes shining with something I couldn't name. Behind me, Caleb stayed in the car. I didn't ask if he was coming. I knew he wouldn't. Inside, the house was exactly as I remembered it. Framed photos, velvet drapes, the grandfather clock still ticking in the corner. But every detail felt like a stage set. Rachel sat at the kitchen table, the same spot my grandfather used to read the paper. You made it, she said softly. I didn't sit. Tell me the truth. She looked at me for a long time. Then, which version? I didn't answer, because I didn't know anymore. She sighed, reached under the table, and placed something between us. My journal. The original one. The one I'd never written. I tried to help you escape it, she said. But you kept digging. You always dig. You lied to me. I played the part you wrote for me. My head spun. I opened the journal. The last page was filled with tight, deliberate handwriting. Mine. But I had no memory of writing it. If I'm reading this, then I failed. Again. No matter how I twist it, I always fall for her. Always trust him. Always reach for truth instead of peace. I turned the page. There was one last entry. To whoever I am now, burn the house. Walk away. Do not try to save this story. It will not love you back. I looked at Rachel. She nodded once. I'm tired too, she whispered. I walked to the living room. Grabbed the canister of lighter fluid from under the sink. Exactly where Grandpa used to keep it. My hands moved without thinking. By the time I struck the match, she was already standing by the door. Neither of us ran. The flames reached the walls like they knew them intimately. The drapes caught. The floorboards groaned. Smoke curled around the memories. Outside, Caleb's car was gone. Only silence remained. I stood by the mailbox, journal in one hand, watch in the other, as the house collapsed in on itself. Not for the first time, and probably not the last, but for the first time in 14 versions. I didn't try to understand it. I just walked. And with each step into the dark, I felt the weight loosen. One truth, finally clear. Some stories don't end when you wake up. They end when you let go.